the audacity of them putting Rin and Shishomaru in the same opening as Inukag, as if they are the same. I don't even ship Inukag. Hi guys, this video is weird because I originally filmed the later part of this video a couple of episodes ago in terms of Yashahime land down and explains everything that's happened in the interim to sort of establish everything. Most importantly, it canonizes something that we knew was a fact for a long time, which is that Rin is the mother of these twins. Gasp, shock, I personally can't believe it, but I believe it, I knew. Before I get into the video that I made before, I will say this. I stand by what I said in the video, but I feel like my anger towards some of the points has been raised by this most recent episode. So I wanted to discuss it before I got into the other stuff because I was experimenting with this other video. I didn't really get time to re-record it because I was working on other things, and quite frankly, Yashahime has not been good enough to deserve me redoing the entire thing, but I wanted to open with a sort of addendum. So in this episode, it establishes that how they got that rouge, the black pearl, where Inuyasha and Kagome are, who the mother of the twins are, and sort of what set the stage for the environment that our young protagonists find themselves today. So, some way, somehow, for reasons we don't know, Rin and Shishomaru got married. Bet. They have twins that Rin names, and Kagome is pregnant really around the same time. She has some morning sickness. She doesn't really have a baby bump yet, but she preggo, Lego. Good for her. While she is walking downtown to go help Rin give birth, Riku fucking arrives and is like, girl, so you remember the movie Your Name? Well, think of it like this, except with more demons. Basically, every 500 years, this giant comet comes and it could destroy everyone and unleash a whole bunch of demons. And last time it happened, Inutasho, who is brown-skinned, good for him, and Kiramaru, whatever this other beast demon name is, I don't care. Pfft, irrelevant. He and them helped kill it last time, but there's some prophecy that other Maru can only be killed by someone who is neither demon nor human. It's some Macbeth shit. I don't know why we're doing this, but Sunrise, y'all got the coins, so I guess you gotta do what you gotta do. He hates half demons and quarter demons, so as soon as Rin gives birth, Shishomaru yeets some children away and is like, I got this. Rin is out there crying, just like, I trust you. Jocken is like, y'all, so I can't explain everything right now, but here's this pamphlet. I'm telling you what we're going to be able to destroy this comet. Please follow the pamphlet. So we happen to skip to a later time, and they help destroy the comet, but then the twins are put by this tree in this forest, and Jocken, who is also the mom, because apparently he's the one raising these feral children, because they live in that Mowgli life. He is the one who puts a barrier around them, and he helps them do whatever. Then all of a sudden, Kimaru, whatever his face is, he fine though, he wakes up, and his henchwoman, who is, you know, she kind of cute. I would have maybe shipped it if, you know, this had been a different time. But she's like, oh, guess what? They're half demons all over the place right now, including Inuyasha, and his girlfriend just had a baby. So what we're going to do about that? He's like, what we're going to do about that is go kill Inuyasha. And Shishomaru's like, oh, I hear you're going to kill Inuyasha. Let me join you. So there's a black pearl that, you know, with the graveyard of the father and all that kind of shit is. It went back in Inuyasha's eye at the beginning of the episode. During this episode, Shishomaru goes into the eye again, takes up the pearl, and sucks in Inuyasha and Kagome into the pearl before they can die, but after Mahora has been spirited away to go be raised by Koga, which is the best part of the episode. It's like, 'cause I was telling my girlfriend that she was absolutely raised by Koga. That was absolutely right. Koga wins. Love that for me. Love that for Mahora. It was cute. So yeah, they got spirited away. That they're in the pearl to be safe. Don't know where that pearl is, because I don't think it's the one that Mahora has. And then when the babies are like walking and talking and doing that kind of shit, they are they are attacked because they use some dream magic or whatever to find the children, and when they get a little bit growner, and then the forest gets burned down, and all of a sudden the pearl activates, sucks Toya into the future. Setsuna's still out here in these streets, and then she gets raised by who should have been her mama's baby daddy. So that's the story of what happened, and that's supposed to make us feel good about the choices that Sunrise has made in completely effing over this franchise. And let me just say this, and I go into this more into the longer scripted video, which again, weirdly put together. I'm not always looking at the screen because I had a different teleprompter system. Don't worry, it's not used any other time afterwards. Like I said before, I got so frustrated with this show that I didn't really want to re-record it. But I think what frustrates me about everything that they have chosen to do with this spinoff is that nothing that they have done yet has validated the existence of the spin-off series. It has not validated the discourse, the drama, the anxiety, the frustration, the accusations being flung at people about being pedophiles and pro grooming. It has not validated the abuse that, Shush Rin shippers are getting. It has not validated the triggering that has been happening towards people who are against Shishomaru Rin because of the grooming aspects of it that I discussed in the video. I explain how I feel about it in there. But my long short is that for me, the issue was never the grooming or any of those kind of things, because I don't believe that that's actually what the narrative is saying. It is bad writing because Rin was the only cis woman available to give birth to Shishomaru's children, and she's treated like a broodmare. And that is my issue with everything that they have done with her character since. Like, in this very episode, the entire time, she is just like, she has like one scene and she spends it on her back crying and being sad. There is no gentleness given to her. We have no sense of relationship between her and Shishomaru. We just know that they're married and that's his wife, or on all those kind of things, because other people say that. There is no intimacy given between the two characters. We have no idea how the relationship has gotten to this point where they have had children now together, and that to me is the biggest mistake of this series. Like, you can disagree about them making it canon and how people feel about that. I think all that is discourse that I, again, do in the video. But for me, the biggest issue has always been that this spinoff never felt necessary. Having it be Shishomaru's daughter the same age as Inuyasha and Kagome's daughter felt lazy, and it still feels lazy. The story would be more meaningful if it had just been about Mahora and maybe had some Inuyasha, Shishomaru, and if you want to do the Shush Rin thing, have Rin be an adult, maybe have her be a demon slayer, or be kind of like the Kagome of being like a Miko type and traveling with Mahora, trying to deal with this kind of thing. Because I think the conflict of like, oh, there's a super demon who wants to kill half demons because of some weird Macbeth prophecy, like that could go somewhere, that could be interesting. But I think it's more interesting if you have it be Inuyasha's conflict that gets passed down to his daughter. Shishomaru only happens to save Kagome and Inuyasha, and now he helps low-key protect his niece via Jokin, via Rin, who travels with them, and maybe through this time he sees Rin as an adult, not just a baby he raised, blah, blah, blah. There are many ways that they could have done this that would have given Rin autonomy, would have been less triggering to viewers, and would have been just more interesting. I do like Toya and Setsuya as characters, more Setsuna. Toya is kind of the, but I like their design. I think that they're sweet baby angels at the core of who they are. Mahora is obviously the MVP. She's the best one. She's the great. She's the GOAT. But nothing that they have done and presented and written has validated the existence of the stress, anxiety, and frustrations of this show. Because the show is bad. The show is mediocre. It really only serves as fan service to very particular Inuyasha fans. Like, and not, again, it's fine if that's what you like. I mean, I still don't know how I feel about continuing this series. Like, part of me wants to see where things go because I love Shishomaru. Y'all know this. I have Shishomaru fan art on my wall. I have a Shishomaru body pillow on my thing. I had a Shishomaru poster on my wall for years. You guys have seen that if you've seen my older stuff. So like, I love Inuyasha. I'm collecting the manga in the big versions of it now. Like, I'm interested in the series. I want it to do well, but I also at the same time, like, I've had my own Inuyasha Shishomaru headcanon fanfiction going on for like over a decade. So none of this affects me. I don't care that much about the choices that they make in terms of how it affects my canon or my view of the character. Like, I have Sesshomaru with my OC since I was like 14. This is not gonna affect me. Like, I ship him with my OC, and I ship him with Kagura, and I ship him with Kikyo. Kagura can stay dead. I hate her forever. Glad she's dead. Bye-bye. But I think it's just frustrating that a series like Inuyasha, which was done and ended well, in my opinion, even though it took too long to end, that it was continued in this cash grabby way and has not been engaging, has not been fun, has not really delivered a lot of things in terms of really interesting character design, in terms of good storytelling. Like, Kagome, like, everyone looks the same. As a fan of Inuyasha, as a fan of the series, it is disappointing to have to see people who really love this series feel let down by it, by a series of very mediocre and tacky choices.
The series is produced by Sunrise, directed by Teru Sato, with main character designs by the Inuyasha original creator, Rumiko Takahashi. Rumiko Takahashi, from what I have found out and what I've read, has had not that much involvement with the series outside of the character designs, and honestly, maybe that's for the best or maybe the worst. It's still to be determined. So many years after the events of Inuyasha, where we hope Rin is at least 18 years old, Sesshomaru's 4-year-old daughter Toya is separated from her younger twin sister, Setsuna, and gets stranded in the modern era, where she is adopted into Kagome's family and raised by Kagome's younger brother, Soda, who's now a grown-ass man with his own wife and child. Good for him. We stand. He kind of looks like Endymion, aka Mamoru. 10 years after that, Toya is reunited with Setsuna, who came to the modern time through the Tree of Ages being activated, and during their separation, it is revealed that Setsuna has become a demon slayer and she's working with Kohaku and does not remember her past or even having a sister. And so in order to restore Setsuna's memories, they, along with their cousin that they don't know is their cousin, who is Inuyasha and Kagome's daughter, Mohora, who also has no memories of her parents. So it's like, who's raising these fucking kids? Who the hell knows? While there have been plenty of shout outs, and the whole premiere episode was just one big nostalgia trip, and it mentions previous characters and their relations to each other, there is this general ignorance about who these people are to the younger generation, which is it makes no sense. Like, Kohaku, Mayoga, and Kaede, who is still alive, somehow have not shared information about who Setsuna and Mora is, even though they're both actively involved. Like, Mora knows who Miyoga is, and so how does she not know that Kagome and Inuyasha are her parents? You know, Setsuna is clearly Sesshomaru's daughter and being raised by someone who traveled with Sesshomaru, and yet he doesn't find out until like episode 3 that they're related. Like, Mohora doesn't know who her parents are, but she knows who Sesshomaru is and what he smells like, even though that's her uncle. But she knows Miyoga, calls him Grandpa Miyoga, and Miyoga don't tell her who her parents are. How? This show wants really, really badly for the characters to stand on its own 2 feet without the original series characters, and I get that, but the problem is that when you make a series about the offspring of said characters, there is an expectation that the connections between them are there beyond DNA, that they have been nurtured and raised. And this has been a problem with the way a lot of shows, especially shonen and action shows, handle romance, aka ignoring it almost entirely until the very end. Back when The Legend of Korra came out, which was the sequel series to Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the weird things was how absent and negligent every single member of the gang happened to be as a parent. Like, tragically, ridiculously so. Aang prioritizing his airbending son Tenzin over his 2 elder children already seemed weirdly out of character and sus, but the idea that Katara, Team Mom Katara, didn't step in and tell him to get his bald-headed shit together made even less sense. I mean, it's so unrealistic. Toph not only became a cop, but was also an absent mother to both her daughters and made them feel inadequate about themselves and pitted them against each other in a way that she didn't deal with until they were both grown and had children already. Zuko gets Best Parent Award for just saying that he wants to go protect his daughter when all the world leaders are being attacked in season 4. So like, good for Zuko. He is the only one who managed to still be a good parent. In Boruto, whatever it's called, Naruto Next Generation, Zatata, whatever, he has a complicated relationship with his father, Naruto, which just feels like, okay, I guess, I barely watch the show, but I be seeing the Twitter gifs. And like in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, it has Harry not being able to connect with his youngest poorly named son, Albus Severus. Still don't like that. That's abuse. Because he's sort of into Slytherin and, for like weird plot reasons. Like this trope feels exhausted and exhausting for the audience. In Yashahime, despite a lot of the characters being alive for some reason and a lot of the old players being evolved, the connection between these children and their parents is non-existent. At this point in time, Kikyo has been more relevant to the lives of these children than their parents, which, as a Kikyo stan, amuses me greatly. But as a fan of good storytelling, it's frustrating. Where is Kagome? Why is she not even in the promo material, guys? It don't make no sense. Add to that the way Kagome and whoever the canon baby mama of Shishomaru's kids has just been absent in the marketing, and it is a sad reminder of how often series, even series that have female leads, don't get that knowing how to write relationships is important, especially considering how so much of the genre is about letting, teenage kids go off and do something reckless for character building and the lulz. There is really no reason for the parents to be absent. They could just be like, protag's gonna protag, and let them go on adventures. I mean, Kagome was ditching high school to go do some stuff when she was 15. She gonna let her child go. One of the fun things about Dragon Ball as a series is that since the characters have been allowed to age, and Super especially has become, super domestic, we actually have a better understanding of these characters and as parents and their relationships, as husbands and friends, etc. Because for a long time, that shit did not make no sense. So why can't Toya, Setsuna, Mora just go do their own thing and have their own chosen one destiny moments? And then they come home to recoup and their parents is like, yo, you hungry? The other issue this brings up is how so many people fail to understand that telling good romance stories is important when you want us to be invested with these characters having children. Like, I remember when Dragon Ball introduced Trunks, my husband, and at least in the anime, they gave us some filler episodes to sort of set the stage for that. In the manga, there is nothing. Like, it comes out of left field, and thankfully Trunks is so great and so fine that we were all like, come true, because otherwise that motherfucker came from the air. Chi-Chi and Goku have been together for years, and like the intimate dynamics of their relationship are explored mostly in fan fiction. We're just meant to assume that because they are together and have children together and are grandparents together, that everything is fine and they make it work, even if there is no development of their relationship for the most part at all anymore. Hell, I remember the beginning of the Boo saga when Bulma calls Vegeta her husband, and I was like, yo, husband, legally? I was like, okay, that's a development. I do understand that people are not coming to shonen for romance, and I don't even think that we need to have kissing, hugging episodes where they go on dates or anything, but it's like, even in Yu Yu Hakusho, they did a good job of showing the relationships between characters and who was romantically affiliated with whom. You don't need to spend all the time doing it, but like, we should have an idea of the emotional realities of these partnerships. Like, knowing how to write a good romance, especially when you pair all of the characters together in like a super heteronormative way, is part of being a good writer. I mean, not ship Kadang or Inukag for real, but they make sense as a couple. You couldn't even begin to explain to me why Sakura and Sasuke are married. Like, I got a whole ass daughter. I don't know why she did that. Could not tell you why. With Yashahime, this is even more jarring because of how they chose to center the children of a character who ended the original series with no romantic relationships. Which is now that we're gonna get into probably the biggest issue with this whole spin-off series. And part of the reason why I made this video, and also the part of the video that was probably the hardest for me to talk about, because there's so many issues with this bit of it.
I talked about this issue briefly and somewhat in jest when the series was first announced, but it has progressed into something that has become deeply polarizing and just hard to discuss within fandom, so I wanted to talk about it here. Let me start off by saying that I do have empathy for the fact that discussions of childhood sexual abuse and child grooming are extremely triggering. I have memories of being sexually harassed on the streets and on the train as a young girl, like as young as 12 years old, so I absolutely relate to that. What I do think can be troubling is that we are in a place where a lot of things get labeled as pedophilia and child grooming when they simply are not. Yashahime implies through process of elimination that Rin is Shishomaru's wife, mate, whatever. For me personally, the issue begins with the fact that it's clear that Rumiko Takahashi never intended for Shishomaru to be a romantic or sexual person. Kagura's whole titties will like be out and he's like me, unimpressed by them and just like, girl, I have a story to catch. Can we move on? And as much as it pains me to say so, if Takahashi wanted Shishomaru to be with a cis woman, the obvious choice would have been Kagura, and she's dead. So when we see Rin and Shishomaru interact last in the manga, it is when Shishomaru gives Rin a new dress after the time jump, you know, and that's it. And she would only be 11 or 12 years old by the time of that, even though in the flashback episode through Yashahime, they don't acknowledge that, have her wearing the same clothes she always did and still seems 8 years old. So like, don't know why you're doing that if that's the pairing that's about to happen, but go off. All of this to say, this was not established, first of all. Secondly, this idea that it retroactively makes Shishomaru a pedophile or a child groomer is, in my opinion, false, because A, he is not shown in the anime or manga to be attracted to children, and B, there is no indication in the anime, manga, movies, or anything that Shishomaru has any attraction to Rin. He barely feeds her, let alone grooms her. Like, Jacket is doing all the heavy lifting parenting there. So here's the question, like, why if Shishomaru is written to be romantically and sexually bored, uninterested, maybe somewhere on the A spectrum, did they decide to make a spin-off series where the twin daughter protagonists were his children? Well, because they are punishing shallow bitches like myself for this. Like, it's because Shishomaru is popular. Like, look how much attention around the series has even happened because it didn't tell us right away who the mother of his children were. Like, that's half the post on the tag, is figuring out what the hell is going to happen. But the final nail in the coffin for me is that through doing this and putting Rin literally in a tree, allegedly, because they still haven't confirmed it, they have removed any autonomy from Rin and an ability for us as an audience to see how this man, who was at least a savior figure and at most a father figure, became a lover, partner, baby daddy, whatever the dynamic is. And it turns Rin into a broodmare. And I fundamentally hate that. The lazy writing of this series opens the door to dangerous, triggering conversations concerning child grooming and pedophilia, possibly alienating others from even discussing the show if they have been abused in such ways in the past. And it could also lead to people who are trying to just make the best of a messy situation within the fandom put into an uncomfortable situation where they are being labeled as child groomers or pro-pedophilia over something that is coming from fundamentally lazy writing. To me, what is happening in Yashahime isn't malicious, but it is the afterbirth of what happens when a body of work that pairs everyone up in a heteronormative way at the end of the original series assume that the aftermath of everything is children. It's embarrassing. And for what? What is probably going to end up being a mediocre sequel with one character that people really like and like another character that people kind of like? We should have a clear idea about why two characters are going to be in a long-term romantic relationship and eventually have kids together. We should understand that dynamic. Like, Slayers does that, in my opinion. I understand why Lena and Gowrie are together even though they're not together. Like, and also, it is perfectly valid to have a spin-off series where nearly immortal characters do not have kids or partners because not everybody needs that shit. Can you imagine how much more fun this story would have been if it was just Mora, like, attempting to rescue her parents who got captured by some random demon, so she has to go ask her grumpy but lovable uncle Shishomaru for help, and they journey together, and like Rin is trained as like a demon slayer or a Miko who is not stuck in a tree? We could have had it all. Release Rin from the tree!